Welcome back to the Lily Pod. The Lily Pod is Catapult Greater Pittsburgh's podcast where we speak with community leaders, politicians, and residents who are doing great work in their communities and partnering with us in some ways. And we are so excited to have these conversations to let them have a platform to tell you more about what they do in the community. And today I am here with my friend, Maryn. Maryn Formley, who is the founding executive director of VEEM. VEEM stands for Voter Empowerment, Education, and Enrichment Movement. And I love that because I am, like many of you, really caught up in the politics of the day, right? There's so much happening in politics right now, both nationally and locally. And it is so important whether or not you feel comfortable with politics, whether or not you think you know enough to be engaged, you must be engaged. And just really quick before we start, Catapult Greater Pittsburgh is a 501c3. We are a non-partisan nonprofit organization, so we don't care who you vote for. We don't care what party you are affiliated with. We do not discuss those things here, but what we will be discussing is the importance of educating yourself about the political process. It is the process that is super important. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today, because I kind of feel like people shy away from the things that they don't fully understand, right? When people don't understand things, it can be scary. It's fearful. And a lot of folks in politics these days have sort of shifted to this fear and identity crisis and all of these things that create division in our country and in our city. So I think if people knew a little bit more, if they understood the mechanics of politics, they might feel a little differently. So I'm on a hunt. I'm on a journey to find all of the organizations in our community who have dedicated themselves to educating folks about the basic mechanics of politics. And so I am super excited to talk to my friend Maryn here today. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, you're the founding executive director of this organization. So what inspired you to start an organization like VEEM?
That's a fun story. I actually had no idea that any of this would ever come to be. I work for Allegheny County. I've been there for 20 years.
Wow.
And so, I just I feel like some of our local change makers, they kind of come out of high school just ready to go. They're ready to be change makers. They go do these type of programs. They found nonprofits. Like, I just feel like you kind of watch them through their trajectory. And I'm like, okay, that's cool for them. Not me. I'm going to go be a government employee. I'm going to put my time in, and that's cool. And my passions will be there. Until 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, 2017. My former pastor, Reverend Dr. John C. Welch, ran for mayor against at the time Mayor Bill Peduto. And we had a very small grassroots campaign. He was instrumental in getting a lot of the issues about our water brought to the surface, because that really wasn't brought in. So that was exciting. But he said God told him to run, and so run he did. And, at the time, 2017, I was finishing my last year of grad school at Duquesne University. And I had gone for my master's in leadership. And I kind of, I'd been through a few leadership programs, and I kind of was looking for a thing in one way, but I really wasn't looking for a thing in another way. I'd also done Intisaki, which is a woman's leadership program for, she who walks with lions, she who carries her own things. And so, when we're there, that's like, it's related to the Gamaliel Foundation. And so it's like, you are a world changer. You have the ability to change the things in your neighborhood. And, I would go and I'm like, I don't really have a thing. I'm interested in stuff, but I don't really have a thing, and that's okay. And so then I had a couple of ideas. I was going through that. that was all in the background. So anyway, it is May 2017. And Rev has a very small campaign, very small grassroots.
I remember his campaign. He ran a great campaign.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're very small and very, very much like, hey, there's 10 people in the room and this is our team. Like, and we gotta, and so, he's like, well, do you have time to volunteer? And, I'm working full time. I'm in grad school. I was like, oh, I got to finish my finals, Rev. As soon as my finals are done, I got you.
Yeah.
And so it is the weekend before the primary election, and we are out campaigning on the West End, South Hills-ish, Carrick, around in there, Mount Oliver, somewhere up in there where the Dunkin' Donuts is. Now I live over there, and I'm like, yeah, this is the place, but I still don't know what that part is. And I'm an East Sider. I can't help it. And so, we're walking around, me and a couple other volunteers, and we are encountering people and saying, hey, are you registered for are you registered to vote? Are you going to vote in the primary? Consider voting for John Welch, blah, 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 blah. And so one of the things that stuck with me, we ran into this couple. It was two adult people. One said, yes, I'm registered to vote. The other one said, oh, I'm not old enough yet. And we're looking at him like, you look old enough to me. And we said, well, how old are you? And he said, I'm only 20.
Oh,
and we were like, no, baby. Like, you can vote as soon as you're 18. Like, he just didn't know. And then, so that was one of the stories that stuck with me. And then on election day, we all basically took we looked at all the county polls. There's 1,324, about somewhere around in there, and in our county, which is crazy, but thankful, but we'll get into that later. And we had the list and said, okay, here's the Wilkinsburg polls. We should have somebody there. Here's Homewood polls. Here's Hill District polls. We should have somebody there. So I got all the Homewood polls. Homewood and East Hills, which is Ward 13 of the city of Pittsburgh. And so all day, me being the, logical, strategic person that I am, kind of, or maybe a little OCD, whatever you might want to call it, I'm like, okay. And I looked at how many buildings I had to go to. I'm like, I'm going to spend 40 minutes at each precinct and then rotate. So 40 minutes here, leave, go to the next one, 40 minutes here. And so all day,
wow.
I am going through the 19 precincts of Ward 13. There's not 19 buildings. A lot of them share the same buildings, yes. But still, it's a lot, And so I'm at Faison. I'm at Baptist Temple Church. I'm at the library. I'm all over the place. And so while I'm going up and down, up and down, up and down, I'm meeting the most interesting people. But it's a mayoral primary, and it's pretty dry. So there's not a lot of people out. I got on my Rev John Welch for Mayor t-shirt, and and so I'm talking to people all day. A lot of them are poll workers themselves, or they're volunteering for other people. Yeah. So one person I remember, and he was over at Homewood House, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Rev John Welch. Yeah, I believe in what he's doing." He said, "But yeah, but I'm here. I'm volunteering for another candidate, and I can't leave." And I'm like, and I was like, "Oh, but you don't vote here?" And he said, "No, my polling place is over there." So instead of figuring out a way to vote while they were doing that, they chose to make the money, the $100, whatever it might have been, to be paid that day, and instead of voting. Yeah. And that was like, oh man. And that ended up being a theme almost all day.
Wow.
Of people who were like, oh yeah, I know about him. How much is he paying? I'll pass this stuff out.
No.
And I was like, we don't really have money. And they're like, well, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I want him to be my mayor?
Yes.
No? Is that not a thing?
Yes. And I think that I'm just going to say that I believe that has been a common theme in the Black community, right? And there's a strategy to it, because people know that there's a large percentage of these communities who need that money, right? That $100 for a day of passing stuff out is like, yes, I will do it. Yep. And people are being sort of taken advantage of with that strategy, absolutely. Right? Because it's not real civic engagement. I don't want to diminish it, right? Because I do think that any role in that process is important. Yes. I don't want to diminish that.
You're learning something.
You're learning something. But being actively engaged civically means you are taking the time to learn about the candidates, to learn. And I'm going to take it a step further, because this is what I think. I think people get upset with me, right? Because I make a lot of Facebook. I make a lot of social media posts. And I do think sometimes they're misconstrued because people aren't really understanding what I'm saying. Yeah. I have said for years that I don't think there's enough voter and civic education.
Absolutely.
And people are like, no, we go out and we getting people registered. I didn't say that you weren't getting people registered.
Thank you.
I didn't say that you weren't spending time talking about the candidates that you support.
Right.
I'm saying put candidacy aside.
Yep.
Put elections aside.
Yep.
And really get to the root of political machine
Yes.
education.
Yes.
How does it actually work?
Yes.
Why is there a House of Representatives?
Yes.
What is the difference between a senator and a congressman?
Yes.
What is a state representative responsible for?
Yes.
This is the education that I'm talking about.
Yes.
When I'm talking about political education.
Yep.
I don't believe that there are enough people who really fully understand the mechanics
Absolutely
of
that.
politics.
Absolutely that.
And so when I'm saying that I don't think there's been enough education, that's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So I'm going to publicly say, I'm not trying to diminish the work that you guys are doing. I know that come election time, there's a lot of people who are doing great work.
Yep.
I'm saying that we need consistent, regular
Yes.
education
Yes.
happening in our communities that educates people about why politics is what it is.
Yes.
And how it works.
And that's exactly that. And
yes.
So I'm gonna speed up my election day
Okay.
story. That basically that sort of thing happened all day in our community,
Yeah.
and I was like, whoa. But then about 5 o'clock, the polls had dried up, and so the campaign manager was running around, and she said, and she's driving, checking on us, making sure we're okay, and she said, go head over to Squirrel Hill at the JCC. They're still voting over there. So I went on over to Squirrel Hill, and what I found there, Tammy, was very interesting. Because what I expected and what I actually got was two different. Yes, people were voting, but the same kind of unawareness, the same kind of miseducation, the same sort of, and the same sort of shenanigans in one way were going on. It just was different people.
Different people.
So there at JCC, it was candidates' wives who had been bickering because they'd been there all day and they were annoyed with each other.
They tired, they hungry, they didn't smile.
Vote for my husband.
Yeah.
No, don't listen to her. I was like, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But and also though, I remember a voter coming up and she said, well, what's the difference between the Commonwealth Court of Pleas judge and the Court of Pleas judge and the Superior Court and the Supreme Court? And she didn't know either. And that was a person that, you would have thought in your
college educated
majority.
Privileged to a certain extent,
and still didn't know.
Still don't know.
So when we got to the election party that night, which of course Rev John did not win, and turnout was horrifying. And as I'm sitting there, and then of course you wake up the next morning to a post from our friend Bernard, who's like, "Hey, turnout's really bad. Why are people voting?" Right? And so it just started sitting in my spirit, like, who used to do this? Because we all went to high school civics, right? But then by the time you actually vote, the civics is gone, and then you've moved on, you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And if you maybe you get it from your family, maybe you know that you need to vote in every election, maybe you don't. But then what does it really mean?
What does it mean?
And who's teaching us?
Yes.
And where's it coming from? And so it was sitting heavy on my spirit. And then we actually ended up at my church at Bidwell on the north side. We had revival planned for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week. And so it was funny because this idea is rolling around our head. I was like, no, that's crazy. Wednesday night, the guest preacher's like, gives something, and it's like, yeah, it's time to go do that thing. And I'm like, no, you cannot possibly be talking to me, God. I don't have time. I'm not doing that. And then Thursday night, yep, it's time to do that thing. And I was like, okay, God, you playing. Friday night, same thing. So finally I said, all right, Lord, because, my spirituality is important. And I said, well, if this is what you want, I need you to tell me on Sunday morning. Tell me on Sunday, on a regular Sunday.
I'll hear you if you tell me on Sunday.
Yeah, because I'm like, revival, we all high and stuff, and, we having a good old time. The spirit's flowing. I was like, tell me on Sunday, tell me on a regular Sunday morning. And sure enough, Sunday morning, it was like, boom, it was right there in the word. And I was like, so I went right to my pastor, who is Reverend Denise Welch, John Welch's wife, and said, all right, well, Pastor, I got to have a meeting with you because God told me I got to start a nonprofit and I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's where VEEM started.
See, I love that. I love those kind of stories because I also am a founder.
Right.
And most of the things that we find because we are passionate about these particular issues because of our own personal experiences. And, you know, I have to be honest, like I'm not a fan of the political machine.
I hate politics.
Right? And so that's okay, good. I don't feel bad saying
funny.
I don't, but I think it's important for people like us to be actively involved because I will never find myself in that system. Right, it's just not for me.
Please God, no.
But I also know, as someone who's been hyper focused on economic issues and issues that impact the most vulnerable populations of people, I know how important politics is. Yes. Politics is pulling the string on everything. Yes. And if you are not involved, it's literally like that thing where they say, if you know, what is it they say? If you're not in the kitchen, you're on the menu or something like that, you know, because you it's going to happen with or without you. Yep. Right. This thing is going to happen with or without you. And the way that the system is structured today, politics controls every single part of your life. Everything. And then people say stuff like, no, well, you know, not if you believe in God, not if the Lord controls everything. And I said, the Lord controls everything, but politics controls how you can even worship the Lord. Exactly. So let's just be clear.
Let's be real about that.
That there is an important role for politics in your life. Yeah. And it's our responsibility to find out how. Yes. Right. So I think it's important for us as people who care about our communities and who have a stake, we're stakeholders in our communities. It is our responsibility, I believe, to bring the education to the people. Absolutely. But we have to find ways to bring it to people in a way that is digestible, right? People have to be able to digest the information, and in a way that's conducive to all the other stuff I have going on in my life. Exactly. Right. So tell us a little bit about how you offer the political education programming that you offer.
Yes. So, you know, once I got the go ahead and then I started having one-on-one sessions with some folks, you know, I talked to some politicians and said, well, you know, do you do this? I talked to, you know, and I did a lot of fact finding and I, you know, and basically what we did with my founding board members, which I appreciate so much, they are amazing. And, you know, those who, I still have a couple left on there and I've, you know, we've transitioned through some, but you know, all those years ago, but, you know, we sat around the table and tried to figure out, you know, what does this look like? How do we get to people? And that is exactly our focus. Literally the E's in VEEM are kind of how we move through. So we have a curriculum.
Just as a reminder of people what the E's are.
Voter empowerment, education, and enrichment movement.
All right. Thank you.
And so we start off, we basically, I would say like our basic VEEM structure, and then, you know, we've built upon it. But at our very core, we are focused on the educational piece. And so the empowerment, we have 3 to 4 sessions during every election season since 2017. And so our first session if we're partnered with a congregation, if we're partnered with a community group, it just depends on who we're partnered with. But we always start off with empowerment. Why does this matter? Why do you vote? What's at stake? And trying to get that. And so we almost, I would say 90% of the time we start off with Fannie Lou Hamer and we play her testimony from the DNC in 1964 and just on what she had to go through and what the Freedom Riders had to go through to be able to register to vote and how they were beat and called names and all of that. We start there because it's like, you know, yes, it's been 50 years, 60 years.
It feels like 1,000 at this point. Yeah.
How many years it's been, right? Since back then. But that still matters. That's still in our blood. That's still in our like it's still in our history. It's still in our bloodlines. Our ancestry went through so much. So not wanting to guilt anybody who doesn't want to vote, because I totally get that the process and the the climate right now is so gross that it makes you not want to participate.
It makes you not want to be bothered.
Yeah, it makes you not want to participate. But we always start there, and then we say, okay, so what's at stake for you in your community? And then we have discussions around that. We also are faith-based, and so we actually open up with prayer and we close with prayer. And they are, interfaith type of prayers. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be anything, at all, but just recognizing that we are going to open this meeting up because that's what we do, and it's part of our brand. It's what we do. So that's our first meeting. And we also always have food. Back in the day before we got to our 501c3 days, we had potluck, Ron brought the brownies. I brought the Caesar salad, and we would meet at Baptist Temple Church. That's actually where we started. And so it's actually really cool that VEEM continues to serve Ward 13, that same community that I was in that day, and so that's the first meeting. Is why do you vote? What's at stake? The second meeting is let's understand what the offices that are going to be on your ballot actually do. So to your point, what does the state representative do? What is the mayor responsible for? What does the controller do? What do these different judges do? And so we actually go through and we break down what their duties are.
That is super, super, super important. I think that is the question that I get most. Yeah. Right. From particularly like younger folks or people who are just now starting to vote. Right. Yep. I don't know what these people do. I don't know, who are they? Like, how do I know who to pick?
How do you hire somebody for a job if you don't know what the job is?
Exactly. And see that, but also a step further, I think it's important for people to focus on their own value system.
Yes.
Right. What are the things that are most important to you as a human being, for you and your family? Yes. Those are your values. And I think every family and every individual should have a value statement. Yeah. Right? Because it really just centers who am I? What do I stand for? What is important to me? Because it's distraction after distraction after distraction out here. But if I get focused, what are the top 10 things happening in my life that mean more to me than anything else? That's my value statement. Right? And then how is that in alignment with what my family needs? And then let's take it a step further. How does that connect with the community that I'm part of? Yes. And then I need to be listening to these politicians. I need to be not just listening to them, but learning how to research their voting records. Yes. Because what they say and what they do sometimes are two different things. Yep. And that's where I think people get confused. But we have a responsibility to do our own homework based on our value system. Yes. And the reason I know that there are many people who are voting, either they're voting because of a particular party, or they're voting because somebody's black, or they're voting because somebody's white. Look, however you want to do it, they'll do it. But I'm going to tell you the best results, I think, are going to come when you have a value statement. Yep. You know exactly, these are the issues that are important to me. Yep. Women's rights. Yep. The economy. Yep. Immigration. Yep. And knowing what is immigration, what does that even mean? Yeah. Right. So, we got to be careful listening to sound bites and really make a connection between what are they saying, what have they done, and how does it impact my values. Absolutely. That is how we should be choosing who we're voting for. Yes. And until we learn how to do that, I think we're always going to have a certain group of folks who sit it out. Yep. Because it's too overwhelming to even try to figure out who I should be. I don't know. All these people lie. And right? Shallow. They all lie. Yep. They all lie. My life has been the same since the last 8 presidents. Right. Some people say well, nothing's changed in my life.
Right. So why bother?
So why bother? But I don't think that's true. I think if you really, really, really know what your values are, and if you've really been tracking these issues over time.
And the needle has been moving.
The needle has been moving. But you got to be paying attention. Yep. Right? And you have to set the proper expectations. There is no one candidate who can solve all your problems.
That's right.
It's just, it's not even, it doesn't even make any sense that you think that.
That's right.
Right? So we've got to be smart about how we're making these decisions, but I also believe that a lot of our community, we need support in understanding what it is we're engaging in.
That's right.
Right. So I want to ask you a question about meow meow. I know. I just want.
When people find my bio.
Listen, because see, I'm a cat mama too. I'm a cat mama. So excuse me, y'all. I gotta ask about Meow Meow. So her cat's name is Meow Meow.
Meowisha to cow.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Please
her. It's her full name.
What is her full name?
Meowisha Takao.
Oh my God!
Because a long time ago, I decided, and I don't know when, it was way before I was a cat mom. So, if I ever have a cat, I'm going to name her Meowisha. And I had just stuck with that. And it wasn't until years later that I got a cat.
I think it's adorable.
And Takao, because she brings the pain. I got her as a mouser.
I knew it was a Wu-Tang.
It is definitely Method Man.
I knew
Absolutely.
it was a Wu-Tang reference. Okay. See, I'm loving Meow Meow. All right.
Because she's a mouser. And unfortunately, she is a whole murderer. But
love it.
That's what I got her for. It was the middle of the pandemic. No, beginning of the pandemic. It was May 2020. And, we're all working from home.
Yes.
And I'm never home.
Yes.
So I'm working from home on my little computer. And I hear squeak, squeak, squeak. And I said,
oh, no.
Then I heard an answering squeak to that squeak. I said, oh, it's a mouse conversation. Oh, heck no. And I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. What we're going to do. I'm like, I can go get a mouse trap, but I don't like this.
Because now I got to
get rid of it. And I don't like that. And then the humane traps, I still know it's in there. And I don't like that.
Yes.
And I was like, I need a cat.
Yes.
But our shelters are closed because it's the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I got on Craigslist. It was like,
anybody got a cat?
And I found one up at Monview Heights. They're not allowed to have pets up there. They must have found her. She was a rescue. And they gave her to me and all her things that came with her. Like, they was like, nope, we got to get rid of the litter. Oh, sorry. The litter box, everything, $40. And I brought her home. And that night, and she was like a teenage kitten.
Full of energy.
Yeah, she wasn't quite crazy kitten, but she was a teenage kitten. But that first night, she got her first mouse.
Good and after for her. You never heard from a mouse again.
Never again. Listen, they said, oh, she got moved in.
Meow Meow was on her business, but I had to ask you about Meow Meow because I do try to add at least one personal thing. I think that's important, right? Especially in this industry. We're out here, we're running these streets, we're trying to serve our community. Yeah. We have to have an outlet.
Yes.
Right. So tell me one thing that you do to take care of yourself.
Oh, that's a good one. I love getting my nails done.
Yes.
I'm a little hindered right now because my hand just came out of, from my own challenges. And I'm not allowed to put my foot in water. I can't wait. My pedicure is waiting on me. So that is what I'm looking for. So that's one of my common therapies. I also love to run.
Nice.
But that's also going to be on hold for a while. We're going to get back to it. Yep. And I just, I play games on my phone, stuff like that. But I love being outside. Yeah. I love fresh air when I can get it when it's not too cold.
Absolutely. That's good. Remember that you always have to have your outlet. Make sure you're taking care of my friend Maryn.
Yes.
So last question before we go, right? We're heading into election season. It's we're like 10 days out now. 13 days out. What do you want to tell people?
11. I'm sorry.
I think it's 10. What's today? It's the 25th.
I just did the math and then I lost the math.
I think we're 10 days out.
Yeah, it might be 10.
I mean, we're close to that.
We're close.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the time this airs, it will be before election. It might be the day before election day when this airs. So here's what I want you to tell people.
Yes.
What are the people who are registered to vote, but who are not feeling inspired?
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I'm just tired of the commercials, the text, the ads, the divisiveness. Yeah. What do you tell those people? Why is it so important that they get out and vote in this election season?
Yes, absolutely. So what I tell everybody is, number one, a lot of the things that we're dealing with today were from elections we didn't show up for 10 years ago.
That's right.
Like the plans have already been in place. Mm-hmm. And so when we choose not to show up, other folks do show up. And it only takes one vote to change things.
That's right.
So many elections have been won by 1% of the vote, 10% of the vote. If we show up to get what we need for our community, if we show up to put people in office that are going to deliver and that we can hold accountable to the things that we need in our community, then we will feel that's where the enrichment piece comes in. That's where you see the value of the voting. And so, I just challenge folks to plug in, try to get this information, come to VEEM. I'm happy to help you. And then once we get you in a meeting, we'll turn you into a super voter.
I love that.
You'll see it every time. You'll recognize and see why it's so important. So I just challenge people. And then I also, though, want to throw in there, though, that if you really just cannot deal with the presidential part of the race, there's so many other things down ballot. We have our senator, we have our Congress folks, we have our state Senate, we have our state Congress, we have our state treasurer. We have our state attorney general, which is the most
Very
important chief law enforcement officer of the state, and our state auditor general. So those things are worth showing up for. Those things, if the federal government goes to hell in a handbasket, it's our state government that's going to hold us together.
Yes.
So you have to show up for those state offices. And also go to vote411.org if you need somewhere to look to see what people have said. There's also so many other resources. That one is run by League of Women Voters.
Wonderful. That's great information. And let me just add, I want to just build on that. The political process requires us to vote in more than just the presidential election. Our local elections are more important than any other election cycle. So you have to do your research. If you live in the city of Pittsburgh, there is a mayoral race next November.
Loading.
Right? So you have to get out there. You have to start doing the research, figuring out, what is it that you want to hold your city government accountable to? This is your chance to utilize your political power. So don't just, this is almost over, I can go. No, you still have work to do next year. And if you're still interested in learning more about who these people are, what the roles are, how you hold them accountable, how can people connect with you?
Yes. So the best way to get in touch with us is between our website or our social media. We are in the process of adding more of our educational stuff to our website. But for now, though, on our social media, there's all kinds of posts about, what do these offices do? So you can find us by going to or however you look up your social media, VEEM Pittsburgh, all spelled out. V as in Victor, E, M as in Milk, PITT, S as in Sam, BURGH. And we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. But I'm not very great at TikTok, so
TikTok
it's
is
there.
a lot of work to me.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like TikTok, but I'm like, I don't have time.
I don't really like to create. Facebook and Instagram is where you're going to see the majority of our content. And, we're working on a YouTube station, or YouTube channel, So we're coming along because we want to get this into more people's hands, because we recognize that if you have an event and say, we're going to talk about voting, the people who want to come are the people who are already voting.
The people who are already voting. So we
got to get to them, the integrated voter engagement.
Creative. And I think that it's up to all of us, right, to encourage young people to vote, to encourage people who have just been consistently saying that they just don't see the value in it. Keep trying, right? Maybe you're going to say something one day that really changes their perspective. But I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in and hang out with me here today on the Lily Pod. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. We will be back soon. And thank you. And we will see you next time. Have a good day.